Well, hello again. Very warm welcome back to the east coast of Spain. We're in the magnificent city of Valencia for our continuing coverage of the 2024 World Cup circuit. It's actually the middle of a really busy period for athletes looking to end the year on a high. You might recall it was Olympic distance last year, but we're back to the sprint format today. Big crowd here as well, which is always good to see. The elite men's race coming up live in just a few minutes' time. And if you're with us earlier for the women's event, you'll know it'll be fast and furious on a flat course that's just made for lightning quick times. My name's Trevor Harris, alongside double world champion Helen Jenkins, as we just check the weather. Pretty similar to earlier, still just shy of 80 Fahrenheit, 25 on the Celsius scale. We'll have a look at the start list in a minute, Helen, but we've a massive field here, 65 men. In fact, we'll just look at the course first of all before we look at the field. So there's one lap in the water, 750 metres. Then we'll go on to the bikes, which might be flat, but it's pretty challenging. It's 4 laps, as you can see, 4.8 kilometres each. There's a 180-degree dead turn on each circuit, just under 20 kilometres in total when you add it all up. And then onto the run, 2 laps to make up the 5K distance, a course that actually takes in part of the bike route and then finishes back near the marina. So I'll just finish the question I was going to ask you. Number one, or who was going to be number one, Tyler Mislawchuk, is ill, so he's not racing. It looked pretty wide open when he was in it. Now, it's almost impossible to call, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really hard to call. There's no standout favourite like there was in the women's race today, but I think the Spanish crowd have a good chance of getting a winner today. David Cantero won last year. We've got Antonio Serrat coming in as the top-ranked athlete. Jenis Grau is racing, who's also won a World Cup. So they've got a good chance.
Well, we've got the excitement of Valencia to come. We're going to look ahead briefly, 2 weeks, or nearly 2 weeks, to the next stop on the WTCS circuit. That is Weihai, China. The men's field is phenomenal. We've got Alex Yee back, we've got Hayden Wild back, and when those two are in the field, you generally get fireworks. We've also got the world champion here, Beth Potter from Great Britain.
I think the really interesting one is Gwen Jorgensen.
Tersch hasn't given up though, she's trying to come again, and Potter has to respond again. What a fantastic battle, really started the season well.
I think he's going to come out all guns blazing for this one.
This is so impressive. How's the Winter Australia? Bang on 50 minutes. What a run. Trying to dominate Hayden Wild on the run. Well, there are your dates, there are your details. 8:30 local time, the men. 11:45 a.m. local time, the women. 27th of September, live coverage here, of course. Meanwhile, first man being introduced, Antonio Serrat, because there is no number one, because as we said, Mislawchuk not here. Serrat, he's due a big performance, isn't he?
He is. He's done well on World Cups this year. Got a second earlier in Hong Kong, but he hasn't really performed on the World Championship circuit since that second in Bermuda back in 2022.
Gabor Faldum, the veteran, I think we can probably call him, but rarely runs a bad race. 158th event today for Faldum, who's now 36.
And he's still doing well. He's had a couple of podiums over the last few years. He runs really well.
Well, there's the man who, as you mentioned, won last year, David Cantero. Of course, then it was a Olympic distance. It's a sprint today. Now, McCluskey, Callum McCluskey, won in Napier earlier this year, first World Cup of the year. Not seen too much of him since.
Gets off as well, the 3-time Olympian now.
I mean, if you started to try and draw up a short list, as we see Vinuela, who won a bronze 6 days ago in Carlo Vivari, I mean, you'd probably run out of paper. You could have half the field on it.
Yeah, and normally I go through and pick out kind of the standout swimmers through the field, but there's a lot of really strong swimmers, and it's hard to find out who's going to be on top.
It's the best place for racing. It will come as my family, my friends, and it's a lot for me because they give me the strength I need for the race. And I think the place, it's the better place where we could do the World Cup. So I'm so excited to race again in home. I'm feeling good, I'm feeling strong, I'm in a good shape. So I hope to stay on the first position on the swim. in the head group on the bike, and then try to do a super fast run and don't look back and just try to get the line on first position. I think it's gonna be a big group, maybe, and then for sure it's gonna be a super fast run. Obviously there are another good runners, and it will be a really interesting fight, so we will see who gets the win. It's a hard team in Spain with Antonio, Baxter, Kevin, and for sure they're gonna put the fight really hard, but this is the best for a country to have a lot of level and make other athletes to get improved and get better. Thank you.
Well, he was the big superstar here last year and hoping to go back-to-back, David Cantero. If we look in a bit more detail at the starting list there. Just a couple of non-runners. I mentioned Ms. Lorchuk. Martin Sobey, unfortunately, has concussion, so he is not racing. He's actually gone back to Canada. And the other man who was not, or is not racing, who was listed, is Chan Uk Park of Korea Republic. So it still leaves us with a field of 65 because we've got 3 Spaniards coming as not lucky losers, but they're on the wait list. If you ever think that triathlon isn't a truly international sport, you just have to look at the nationalities of the men in this race here.
And especially when you have a World Cup like this, where the start list is full and it's giving a lot of opportunity to small nations which don't always get a chance, especially in that pre-Olympic time where it was so competitive to get into the World Cups. It's kind of gets a little bit more relaxed at this point in the year. And like I said, those 3 Spanish that have come onto the start list last minute are getting a great opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, this year, pre-Olympics, it was all dominated, wasn't it, by who would get there, who'd be in Paris. And now that can just be put on the back burner. It's done with. And we've got kind of a couple of years before we even start thinking really about, or some of us start thinking about Los Angeles. Some of these athletes will be thinking about it in a few months' time. But this is one of the most eagerly awaited World Cups of the year. It's a fantastic location. It's so quick, the course.
And definitely the reputation of being a runner's race, this one. It's a fast course, and quite often we don't see that breakaway on the swim and the bike, but the women proved that wrong earlier today. So maybe some of the men kind of doing their warm-up earlier on while the women are finishing, maybe being a little bit inspired by that and be trying to do similar sort of tactics today. There's Vinuela there. So he was amazing in Carlo Vivari last weekend to get a bronze medal there.
Yep, first time he'd been on a World Cup podium. And actually, when he started on the run, he got passed by a couple of triathletes early, and you thought, yeah, he's probably going to fade. And he didn't. There was pressure from behind, and he stayed strong, and he got the bronze, which was a big achievement for him.
Yeah, so coming into this race off a big high from last weekend.
Yoshikawa closest to camera. And Vinuela, then Matthew Wright of Barbados. He was in Carlo Vivari and at the Olympics, of course. They have to wait until the clock ticks round to the 7 p.m. start time. And even though it is 7 o'clock, it's still very, very warm. Never any issue that it would be a non-wetsuit swim. Always is here. And because it's sprint distance, any time penalties that may occur will be 10 seconds. Stand by. He left them hanging for a while, but we are underway. Massive field of 65 men in what is going to be a lightning quick sprint distance triathlon here in Valencia.
You know, I mean, I know the men's field was full, but it looked so much fuller on the pontoon then, didn't it? And it was tipping slightly as they were all kind of lining up on the edge, but all underway safely, no false starts.
No, they were very patient because that heartbeat seemed to go on for a long time. But I don't think anyone transgressed.
No, and straight away you see a few athletes, those athletes have that amazing sprint start, managing to get away, get a little bit of clear water on the way out to the first buoy, which is always so handy when you've got a big field like this. You know there's going to be congestion at those first buoys, so that ability to get out fast, that first 20, 50 strokes, get away from the athletes around you, just means you might have a smoother ride throughout the whole swim.
Been racing here in Valencia as a World Cup event since 2020. In fact, that first year, Vincent Luis won it, Alistair Brownlee was second, and Jelle Gaines was third. So, tradition of big names in this particular event.
And because it was 2020, there hadn't been many races on, was it? It was like the back end of the year. It was like the only races that everyone could do. So, yeah, it was a good start for Valencia. But I think athletes do love coming back here to race. It's been, I noticed with a lot of the athletes, they've come back year after year. They really enjoy the city, the feel of the race. Very well looked after.
Yeah, and obviously it's easy to get to.
Yeah, especially for a lot of the Europeans. And then we have the countries, like I know the Australians have had a big training block in Europe at this time of year. They're normally based in Girona or Banyoles, so not a long way for them as well. So it's a very easy World Cup for a lot of the athletes to get to.
And obviously we mentioned the upcoming World Series event in Weihai. Because that isn't for another 13 days, there's actually no issue if athletes do want to use this race as a bit of a tune-up for China. Now they've got enough time to recover and make the journey.
Yeah, and it just depends where athletes are in their path. Those athletes who have been to Paris have kind of carried on racing, had that big peak for the year. But the athletes who haven't, then there's been this big break in the middle of the year where they've managed to get in a big training block, and this is almost the start of the second half of the season for them, and they'll be keeping going now all the way through to November, so we've still got a good few months left of racing.
It is, as I said, it's a busy part of the year on the World Cup circuit in particular. We've got Rome coming up, we've got Tongyong.
And looking at someone like Callum McCluskey, who won, I think, the first World Cup of the year in Napier, wasn't it? Got kind of a shock win. He beat Hayden Wild there, so wasn't really expected to win and had a fantastic run. But he said he had a great start to the year. There was a few results which weren't good, but he said, I've really consolidated, had a great training block, and looking forward to trying to kick on now for this second half of the year.
It'll be interesting to see how the 26-year-old gets on today. See, this is the first buoy. So those swimmers at the top of your shot have got to come inside towards the left, as you can see them doing now. And this is where we could have some fun and games, when they kind of all converge, not maybe in the first couple, but after that. Although, having said that, first two came together a little bit as well.
Yeah, just trying to look, it's kind of hard from this position to see who's there. It might be one of the German suits at the front, and that could be Spanish on the right, the red of the suit.
The washing machine, as they call it. Look at that.
Oh, look at that. It's just so... And see, everyone just comes around the buoy and immediately pushes over to the right, although that isn't the direction they want to be swimming. See, these athletes on the... just come round. They almost swim right and have to correct that position.
Yeah, so you basically lose ground if you're in that situation.
And the athletes at the front really have to take the time now and try and... I mean, they don't know what's happening behind them, but I guess they can guess. They just have to capitalise on that and try and get further away from the rest of the field.
So passing, or about to pass, that second buoy now. See it getting spun around. They've got to go around it and then to the right. Can't cut underneath it. Can't certainly go inside it.
And this is one of those races that you hear the stories about afterwards, where it'll be like, yeah, where were you when you were around the buoy, or I lost this many positions, and yeah, it's really tricky. See, you get a little bit disorientated, the athletes. They're swimming slightly off course there, meant to be aiming for that orange buoy, and they're going quite far on the inside. Two athletes there really far off course,
yeah,
in
so
the middle.
They've got to cut back onto the inside. It's straight into the traffic. Like trying to come from the hard shoulder onto the lane of a motorway when you're only doing 10 miles an hour.
And those two athletes are now fighting to get back into the stream. It's a really physical swim here.
Yeah, that is tough.
And the ability to physically deal with it, but also mentally deal with it, because you've got to stay relaxed, because if you don't and you fight it, you get this big adrenaline dump, and then you just feel so heavy and slow in the water. So you really have to kind of just do your best to get out of the situation without panicking, without stressing, which is hard when people are hitting you around the head, or not intentionally.
Well, we have a kind of single file. It's so often like this. So single file at the front, maybe 7 or 8, maybe a couple more, and then you can start to see the beginnings of a larger group. 5.5 minutes in, they're only going to be in here for maybe, I don't know, 8.5 minutes, something like that. So 3 or maybe a bit more minutes left. And already, well, first to last is big. That's got to be at least 40 meters. But it's really a question of who manages to get away at the front. And we won't see the names until they come out the water in about 2.5 minutes' time.
And as there's been so much congestion around those buoys, I imagine the athletes at the front might have that ability to stretch it out on the way back. They might be able to open up a few gaps. And that's sometimes all you need, but they don't want too big of a group at the front. A small group working efficiently together is going to be so much more beneficial for that breakaway, which a lot of the athletes are going to want to happen. Yep, single file. We know the pace is on.
Yeah, tough to kind of guess from that how many we might have. 5 or 6 maybe. Depends what happens in the last couple of 100 meters of this swim.
And there's a long single file of athletes, maybe about 10, and then we get to that group where they're 5, 6, 7 abreast there, and that's when they're slowing each other down because they're so close and in contact. You just can't get into your stroke, you can't get into your rhythm, and the whole group is just getting slower and slower and allowing those athletes at the front to get further away. But like I say, looking at the start list, it's so open today. I don't know if there's any... Is there going to be enough kind of firepower in that front to stay away? Will there be too many athletes from behind motivated to catch? At the moment, it's not a very big gap.
Well, if we do get a largish group on the front, they're going to have to be very careful because parts of this course are pretty narrow, albeit perfect weather conditions, so there's no rain to worry about, but nonetheless, it's tight in places, the run course.
A definite separation there. It's not much, second or two. The athlete leading has led pretty much from the first buoy, really smooth, kind of stayed at the front, in control. No one's had that ability or speed to be able to get round him.
There's a definite break, isn't there? After about maybe a dozen or 15 of them, there's a gap.
Yeah, and there's 2 on their own, and then a little bit more gap. Really short run to transition. But even for those really top runners, they can still claw back a few seconds, and it does make a difference if you have that run speed.
Yeah, and it also makes, you know, T1 even more important than it usually is in terms of not making any mistakes, not losing ground.
That group bunching together now just as they approach the ramp.
So the leader is going to be out in around about 8:40, there or thereabouts. I reckon there are about maybe 14 or 15 before there was a little bit of separation. Star Smith, the American, who was first out.
Oh, great swim for Dar Smith. He led that pretty much from the start.
Ozzano of Italy, very prominent. He definitely, I think, would fancy his chances today, the Italian, coming off for winning the European Sprint Championship.
Chris Perham up there as well as a European aquathon champion.
And Kevin Vinuela, who we mentioned at the start, also an excellent swim from him in the top 10. So the leaders now going out on their bikes for a full lap ride.
Small gaps, they've got a chance. There, that's the gap, isn't it? So they've got a few seconds there. They're able to get that group working smoothly at the front. Kluski just heading out. Baldum coming in too.
Retere of France, that's a great swim for him. Shapira, also the Israeli, performing heroics in the water. Right of Barbados, only 12 seconds back. And Minho Kwon of Korea, also eye-catching in the water. McCluskey 22 seconds adrift.
Yeah, so there's the gap, isn't it? There was about a 10-second gap there between that first group and the others. But straight away, we've got athletes come onto the course and they're attacking it from the start, really pushing the pace over the first lap, and it's made lots of gaps open up. I just find it amazing. They come out of transition so close together, and that one athlete will be quicker than the other one, getting their feet in their shoes, and then they're away so much faster, and it all breaks up. Sagiv, right, they were out the water about 12th, 13th,
yeah.
So they're struggling to get back onto that front of that chase.
About 12 seconds, I think, off the leader in T1, Matthew Wright, Barbadian. He's right there with Sagiv of Israel, trying to catch on to that little group of 4 or 5 in front. You'd think they've every chance of doing that.
McCluskey, Cantero, so they're at the front of the chase group. They were the 2 athletes out, and looks like they're not willing to chase on their own. They're looking behind, waiting for some of the other athletes to come up.
Found them in that group, Saxon Morgan of New Zealand also.
Mengel from Belgium's there as well. He picked up a podium on a World Cup at the back end of last year. He's a good runner.
Tulsa of Spain, who was one of those who got in from the wait list.
So back to the front. I think we've got, there was a couple up the road, but we've got them all back together now. Dar Smith still leading the front, really trying to get that group working. He's super motivated.
Yeah, but that group, you'd imagine, might soon be a little bit bigger. He got a silver early this year, Dar Smith, in an America's Cup race, and then was only beaten by Morgan Pearson in the America Championships in Miami. And he's perennially top 10, so we know he's dangerous.
Yeah, he's had a few top 10 World Cups this year, hasn't he? He then helped the American team train for the Olympics. He went into their holding camp and he was a training partner for all the athletes there, so really supporting his US teammates in the build-up to Paris. It's also probably a really good training block for him for this second half of the season. Well, there's 2 groups, and this second group is large, isn't it? It's spread over the road. There doesn't seem to be too much urgency, especially not at the back of the group there.
No, and if that's the case, it doesn't bode well for them trying to catch those in front. We'll get much more of an idea when we hopefully get the timings when they come through transition. Is that the leader? That was the leader on the left?
Yeah, that's the leaders the other side. So there's a couple of athletes in the middle, and then we've got the chasers going round. But that front group really needs to get working smoothly. It's still Dar Smith at the front, desperately trying to get. I mean, some of them might not have the ability.
We saw him gesturing, didn't we? Literally a few seconds ago, trying to get someone else to kind of carry the workload at the front.
Right from Barbados, and Sagiv, they're sat at the back, but they've just had a big chase to get onto that group. They almost need that sort of kilometre or so to recover, and then they've got to get to the front and help contribute. Oh, this is the chase group, and there's athletes just coming off the back here. They've gone around that dead turn. It's all got really strung out, and those weaker athletes aren't able to now hang on to the back or chase back on into the pack.
That is a terrible place to be. Another one of Mexico suffering on his own there.
Yella looking behind. I mean, he's a great cyclist, isn't he? He did really well in Carlo Vavari, was very active in the group, managed to get a little gap on the rest of the field, but that race was 6 days ago, so maybe he's just still feeling it a little bit in his legs. Oh, to the other side of the cones.
Yeah, just got to be a bit careful there. But that's what I was saying, you know, there are some narrow sections of his course, and when you've got a big group like this, sometimes you almost feel like you're forced the wrong side of those cones. We saw one of the women take a couple of cones out in their race earlier.
Just going around some of those corners there, it's getting a bit strung out again. This is a crucial point for those athletes that are struggling. They're hanging on the back. Back to the front. It's hard to tell from this position whether they have got a few working at the front. It's a great opportunity now. They've managed to get away, but if they don't work hard and consistently together, then they're in danger of being caught. Even if that large group behind isn't working consistently, the two inconsistent groups, generally they might get caught, so they need to kind of get their act together and get some consistency in that front group.
Yeah, that is a large pack of men.
A couple of Canadians there at the back. So 2 of the Canadians not racing today, but I think we've still got 3 in the field, and I think all of them are in that pack.
So first lap completed, first lap of 4.
Done well. I think they've got over 15 to 20 seconds there. So that's good for the first lap. They didn't have that much out of the swim, so they've done well, that front group, even though we've seen some of them aren't contributing to the effort at the front. If you think for someone like Dar Smith, he's in the front in a breakaway. He's obviously feeling good. He's led the swim. He's like, this is a great opportunity. So, like, come on, let's get this group working. Let's get a few of us working together. I think he'll have more help on this lap as some of the athletes who had that big chase initially. You know, Sagiv's going to work. He's a good cyclist. It's a good shot there from overhead because we can see what that gap is from above. Again, chase pack really strung out as they've come through those corners just out of transition. It doesn't look much, does it, when you look at it from above like this? You feel like they might get caught.
Yeah, so can that large chasing pack put any heat on the leaders here?
There you go. So Matt Wright's now working in that groove. Like I said, he just needed that half a lap to recover after the chase.
Yeah.
That's another athlete just been dropped from the chase pack there.
Yeah, I think that was Main Glantz of Israel that was riding on his own. It's never where you want to be.
Just looking where Antonio Serrat is. So in that second group, you've got Cantero from Spain, last year's winner. Hernandez from Spain, Grau's in there as well. Antonio Serrat's in there. So a lot of those Spanish hopes in that second group as well.
There's about, what, 9 or 10 of them at the front now.
So here we got the front of the chase group now. Like I said, Sagiv, they've recovered from the chasing on. He's working hard at the front. Azano's up there as well, who's just won the European Super Sprint Championship. So we know he's got a really good turn of speed. He raced well in Valencia last year too, so he likes the course.
Yeah, he's only got 1 World Cup medal, which was a bronze in Hyundai 3 years ago. So overdue for a man of his ability. He's 27 now, so he's just about the right age. And we know how quick this run's going to be, so any of the top runners who come off somewhere close, come off the bike somewhere close, going to give themselves a great chance. I mean, we're already, what, 19 minutes in on the second lap of 4. We're expecting the winning time to be somewhere in the region of 50 minutes. It's one of the fastest courses we race on all year.
Yeah, so those palm trees are blowing. There is a bit of wind out there, but it doesn't seem to be enough to affect them at the moment. I think that gap's come down slightly over that lap. See some of the men almost at a standstill as they come around that dead turn. It is quite tight down there on the course. some of the men after that dead turn just chasing to make sure they're secure and safe in the group. Yeah, it's getting closer, isn't it? Look, they're not too far away now.
Yeah, and that's a massive psychological boost, isn't it? When they can see them, albeit they've still got some ground to make up.
I think it's still about that 10 to 15 second mark. So it's still a gap, but it's not significant. I mean, it's so much safer at the front for this small group at the moment, and we know once it gets closer together, we've already seen a few athletes almost right into those cones. So once, well, if it comes together, it's being really aware of what's going on around you, trying to position yourself really well. Especially there's a lot of younger athletes in this field. There's a lot of athletes, this might be their first World Cup experience, so trying to kind of stay safe and kind of look after yourself if the groups come together is going to be really important. For an athlete like Davi Quintero, if it comes together, you really feel it's played into his hands. So he's just sat in the middle of this pack, kind of just letting some of the others do the work to pull his way up to the front. And like you said, he knows he's in good shape. He just knows he's got to have a super fast run today.
Yeah, well, we haven't seen much of it. It's only his 4th race of the year, but when we have seen him, top 5 in Hong Kong, that was back in March, 4 in Samarkand in May. Mentioned that he won this race last year, but he also got the silver in Tangier, so we know when he's hot, he's definitely hot, and they've not got that far to go before they complete their 2nd lap here.
Those packs are coming together, aren't they, at the front?
Looks like it, yeah. Looks like they've just about got there.
I think Manuel has been waiting for that. He's been looking back, hasn't he? And every time we've seen him, he's just been checking to see what's going on over his shoulder. Like I say, this is so... Oh, it's nearly there, isn't it? Yeah, very close. This is such a different course from Carlo Vavari last weekend. We've gone from that hilly, hard Olympic distance where that strength, you know, that you need that strength on the run to run off the hard bike, to the opposite here where it needs to be so fast. So we do get different athletes kind of coming to the forefront depending on their abilities.
It's interesting, actually, that Carlo Vivari race, because everyone kind of thinks about the hill that's on every lap. But actually, there's like a 7K ride from when they come out of the lake to get into the town centre. And there are hills on that as well. So it's a really testing course.
And those athletes that did race that last weekend, probably still feeling it in the legs a little bit. And whether that's going to allow them to have that speed they're going to need, especially as it looks like it's all come together. Halfway through the bike, looks like those 2 packs are just merging. And as I just said, they're positioning now for those athletes who really thinking about going for the win here today. They've got to be towards the front and trying to look out for themselves.
Well, we did say at the start that just on paper, at least, it looked to be like a massively open race. And when you look at that and all those men now at the front there, it's, well, pay your money and take your choice, because it's so hard to find a prospective winner.
I know, and I think there's so many men that are kind of in the same sort of bracket, that running zone. So if someone's feeling good today, then they've got it. But then even if you're one of the fastest runners, but you're feeling a little bit off, then you just might miss out today. It's that difference when they all start the run together. Feeling good can mean coming first to 20th. It's so close at this level, especially over such a short course.
Couple of, or 3 Canadians actually.
There's 4 Canadians there.
4, wow.
I say they must be all kind of going around and doing similar blocks of races at the moment. Maybe got a training camp over in Europe, hitting a few different points races and World Cups.
So a massive group at the front here. It will be interesting to see whether we get one or maybe a couple of men that decide at some point, either on this lap or the final lap, just to maybe make a little dart, see if they can get themselves a few seconds of advantage. So more than 40 in this group. These are the men on your screen who've missed the main pack, and they're a minute plus behind.
Yeah, a few seconds advantage, and that clear run to transition, I think, is maybe key.
Yeah.
But then you've got to think, is it worth that extra effort over the last sort of few kilometres to really put down the power to give yourself 3 or 4 seconds, which is what that's what it might be.
Well, yeah, I mean, if they are all still together at the end of the last lap. It's going to be pretty congested. There's going to be a lot of traffic in T2.
So he's still seeing a few athletes going to the front, kind of doing a turn, keeping the pace on. Again, as we're coming towards that dead turn, it's positioning, trying to be up near the front, which is where they all want to be, which doesn't always work.
Nearly 7:30 in the evening in Valencia. Just about perfect weather now. Temperature's just dipped a little bit.
It's a hard time of day to race because it's hanging over you all day. So the morning races are actually easier because you wake up, you kind of eat, and then it's just race prep, it's just waiting. But these athletes have had all day to kind of sit there,
think about
the race, kind of, and then planning meal times, what time you're eating. So yeah, it does challenge you racing at different times of the day. Some athletes will prefer it, some will love this is the perfect time, and some would be like, oh, I wish I raced, 10 hours ago. See some of the athletes at the back now barely having to pedal at this point. It's just so wide across the road, there's so much space. Someone having a bit of trouble with the bike there.
One of the Spaniards, isn't it?
Yeah, I saw somebody pull off and almost looking back. Number 40.
Vicente Hernandez, we think that was. Had some bike issues.
Oh, that's a shame for him. He's only really come back into racing the last year or so, hasn't he, after quite a long break. So 2016 Olympian, went off to do coaching, but has come back into it and I think really been enjoying being back racing. Korean athlete really struggling with the pace a little bit earlier on, and unfortunately for him is now in no man's land. It's going to be a lonely ride to him for the finish.
Yeah, just got to put your head down and battle through it, basically.
And the good thing is he's on lap 3, so he knows that he won't be lapped at this point. So it is just getting through the bike and then you're able to carry on and finish a race. The course does widen and then narrow at different points. So being aware of where those kind of pinch points are coming is really important for the athletes.
Yeah, concentration is absolute key, especially on those narrow sections.
And you can't afford to switch off, because if you switch off, then you might touch a wheel of someone, or you have to be aware in case the person in front of you switches off. So although at this point it's, well, so it's never easy, but it's not going to be that hard for a lot of the athletes in the pack, especially when sitting at the back. You still need to keep that mentally engaged, that mental energy of keeping yourself safe and sticking to your plan as well, of maybe what nutrition you were going to take on board, what hydration, because it's easy to switch off when the pace drops and not think about it.
So the leaders have come through to complete their third lap. They've taken the bell. Around about 30 of them in this group.
Yeah, almost half the field in there. There's always a bit of pressure out of that corner, and it really strings out for a bit, but then all will settle down now on the way back out to the next dead turn. And as this course is basically that, isn't it? Just round to transition out to one dead turn. There's pretty much the only excitement for the athletes on this last lap now as they're all together.
You do quite often see on the final lap, one or two just decide they're going to make a little dart, spend that much energy, because only 4.8 k's the circuit.
Yeah, like you said, it's 4.8 kilometres left. We might get someone have a little push off the front, get that clear run into transition, because the way things are now, that the athletes who are coming in last into transition, they're significantly down by the time they start running.
Perham, we saw at the start, was at the front of the group trying to initiate like a smaller group to get away, and his pleas and gesturing kind of fell on deaf ears, really. So he's quite content now to sit at the back for this last lap, along with those Canadians.
And think of who's it? Gabor Feldham's in this group as well, as is Jenny Grau. Just previous medal winners there. Matthias Berlioz as well, one of the World Junior medalists from the last couple of years. He made his World Championship Series debut back in Hamburg. So is that kind of stepping up? You start doing a few World Cups, you start doing the World Championship Series. He's got a World Cup medal as well from earlier this year. So plenty of World Cup medalists are in this group.
Yeah, Sergio Baxter, I'm going to be interested in his run. It's his first race since May, only his third of the year. But he had two decent displays in Cagliari and Yokohama in the World Series. And he does have a World Cup gold in his possession already. So another potential winner, but there are so many.
Yeah, there is so many. There's got to be about 10 medalists in this group. And again, we don't really know on form how some of them are doing. I think it was a really exciting run last year, wasn't it, in Valencia, where they had that group together almost to the end, and it ended up with the sprint finish, and we could end up with something similar today.
See that port in the background? It's the 5th busiest container port in Europe, Valencia, 2nd busiest on the Med, and it handles about a 5th of Spain's total exports. Huge.
It's such a beautiful city as well to visit. I'm not sure whether the athletes will be appreciating it at this moment, but maybe post-race.
Might have other things on their mind right now because they're deep into their final lap. And we've seen so many times when you have this many men coming into transition, which they will do shortly, there is just the potential for some issues, for some trouble. There are a few of them. You can run into each other, you can lose control of your bike. You're coming out and someone else is, still riding through the transition zone. So you have to have your wits about you.
Everyone around the corner safely, no bike issues this time. Looks beautiful with the sun coming down, doesn't it, at that point? It's quite tricky with the swim when the sun is setting or rising for kind of goggle choice or where the boys are positioned and seeing, but it makes for beautiful racing at this time of night when the sun's going down. Chris Perham came off that corner almost last. I wonder if we're going to see him try and move his way up through this last lap, position himself well. It's really hard when it's tricky when you're at the back now. You can't respond to anything that's happening at the front. If somebody is going to make a push at this point. Some of the athletes going the other way that haven't managed to make this group. Last few corners now as they head back towards transition.
Yeah, just need to concentrate, no mistakes. I haven't had any news of any penalties so far, so they've all been on their best behaviour. Got to be off, obviously, before the line, and then everything has to go in the box.
Such a long distance from this back athlete here all the way to the front. You think it's got to be a good almost 15 seconds, hasn't it, when they get into transition and start putting their shoes on.
But this is obviously one of the narrowest sections. It's hard to do much if you're in Perham's position.
A few spectators out on the course at this point. I've seen a few coaches with the signs holding up of what the time split is, and they come into play now as well on the run.
So coming out of the shoes. And coming round to complete the bike section of this Valencia event.
And one athlete taking those last few corners really well, just managing to get a little jump on everyone else into transition.
Well, it helps, doesn't it? You get a nice, clear little run through.
Yeah.
No one in your way. Got to be off before that line.
Some of them look close then.
Yeah.
They're coming at such a speed.
I never understand why they cut it so fine. It's just not worth it. 10-second time penalty if you're not off by the line.
There's one of the Italians there had a great run into transition. Not sure which one.
Decent transition for Faldon.
Oh.
So the majority of these men are now away.
Callum McCluskey's in there as well. I didn't mention him earlier. World Cup winner from earlier in the season.
Looks like two Spaniards at the front.
Yeah, somebody's gone out really fast. Sprinting around that corner. They look like they're on a 400-metre effort.
Well, time will tell if they've kind of overdone it early.
Dar Smith was up there again as well.
You'd expect him to run pretty well.
Someone came down just that last corner, didn't they?
And we just said it only takes a minute to lose your concentration. It's one of the Mexicans.
I think that might have been Pepstov as well from...
Azerbaijan.
Yeah, from... I was going to think of the country then.
Yeah. It just shows, doesn't it? You can't afford to switch off for a moment. Oh, McCluskey of Australia is right on the shoulder of Cantero. This is good. Last year's winner and the man who won the first World Cup of the season this year up front early on this two-lap run.
There's Surratt. I think we just see Smith there as well. I really remember last year Cantero was getting the crowd going as well, wasn't he? He was going through the stand and getting everyone kind of up and cheering. So I wonder whether he's going to have the energy to do that today as well.
He had that, who was it? It was Priester, wasn't he?
Priester,
That
yeah.
battle with it to the line, yeah.
But yeah, he was coming through and he's really kind of getting everyone on his side and with him. So definitely loves that home crowd support.
There's Serrazione, a little away back.
There's Baxter as well. I think, who else is in there as well? And the others, there's Gabor Feldham, Jenny Sgrau's up there as well. I think we did well. We mentioned a lot of these names, didn't we, before the start? We couldn't pick a winner, but we mentioned a lot who might be up there.
Yeah, well, most of the ones we mentioned are still in the mix at this point. It's early on the first lap, but the run's only 5K, so it is short, sharp, and flat.
I'd love to know the speed they've gone out at for this first kilometre. It's insane. Really taking it out hard.
Well, they've thrown down the challenge, haven't they, David Cantero and Callum McCluskey?
I think Cantero's trying to get McCluskey to come through and help him. Cantero was a runner as well. He's represented Spain in the under-23s for cross-country and athletics. So, but he loves triathlon. That's what he wants to focus on moving forward.
We say it so often. So many athletes' best performances come on home soil, whether it's the familiarity, whether it's, you know, obviously you get the majority of the crowd support, there's no travel involved or very little, but either way, we had a Spaniard winning here last year, and Cantero, the man who was first across the line in 2023, is at the head of affairs again, and there are some more Spaniards trying to make waves. Serrazione.
Time and time again, home race though, isn't it? The athletes come there and they just love it and they thrive in the environment.
Sergio Baxter, Gabor Feldham.
And Baxter's been racing Super Tri over the past sort of month or so, so it's kind of race fit from all of that stuff. He hasn't performed maybe the best, but he's always kind of up there, and he's got that strong bike, so we know that he's he would have found that bike today quite easy, and maybe he's got something to show on the run. Cantero's not getting much help from McCluskey.
No, we saw him gesticulating to kind of take a bit of a turn at the front. McCluskey's, no, I'm happy here. On the shoulder of the Spaniard.
Italians not out of it, though. They're not letting that group get away. Azzano just accelerating to try and get onto the back of the group. And it's just important not to lose contact, especially in this first lap. He wants to stay close enough. But to say on balance, though, if you go too deep, then you know you're not going to make it through the whole run. So, but if you can stay in contact, like keep that elastic there, then you know you've got a chance.
Little kid's trying to race them on his bike. Look.
Well, they're going fast.
Yeah, they do.
It's pretty hard.
Yeah.
Above 20 kilometers an hour at this point. So maybe, yeah, hard for a little kid on his bike with no gears. I don't know if McCluskey can go through at this point. He looks like on the limit, doesn't he? But he's just really doing everything he can to stay on Cantero's heels.
Yeah, he's hanging tough at the moment.
And it's good if you can do that. Just keep hanging tough, and you might recover. He might slow. You might be able to. You're definitely not out. There is at some points you're hanging on, thinking, "Oh my God, I don't know how much longer I can hold on to this pace." But looks like he's doing okay now. He's moving back. Good from Baxter as well. Surratt, who's already got a World Cup podium this year.
Yeah, when Baxter has a good day, he really has a good day. Won a silver in Tizzy last year. Won the World Cup in Pontevedra a couple of years ago.
I think, and that World Cup silver in Tizzy came after he'd broken his leg earlier on in the season. He's very talented. He doesn't always need a huge amount of prep to come out and race well, especially over the sprint distance. The Olympics, sometimes you need that bit more endurance behind you, but he's a very talented athlete.
He used to train with the Brownlees, didn't he?
Yeah, well, his dad's from Leeds,
yeah.
From Yorkshire. Very hybrid Yorkshire Spanish accent, if we hear him get interviewed today. Cantero's stretching it down here, isn't he? He wants to be in front of the crowds as he comes through.
Yeah, and McCluskey at the moment hasn't been able to respond. He's just about still in touch, but he can't let that gap get much bigger. As David Cantero comes through to take the bell. 1 lap down, 1 lap to go. And the man who triumphed here last year is in front. He's got a gap to McCluskey, and there's a long way back to anybody else.
I think that's Surratt, isn't it? Baxter coming through now. They've managed to break away from Faldem.
Might have 2 Spaniards on the podium here. Every chance.
Yeah, Cantero really upped it, didn't he? Just leading into transition, and McCluskey so far hasn't been able to respond.
Yeah, McCluskey maybe on this lap might have a few glances behind him just to see how much of a cushion he's got over the 2 chasing Spaniards, because David Cantero is halfway down the road here.
I'd say, well, Cantero might not have that sprint finish that he had from last year, but it's definitely not easy at this point. But he's managing to stretch out that distance. He's going to be gaining more confidence. He won't be able to hear McCluskey behind him anymore. He would have broken it, so that's always a good sign.
He must be an expert at kind of planning his races, because I said we've hardly seen him since he won that race here in Valencia last year. Only his 4th event of 2024. He's top 5 in 2 of the previous 3.
He's done a couple of World Series so far, but I think as he's a younger athlete that maybe hasn't got that ability on the swim bike yet in the World Champ Series, but in the World Cup he's really able to showcase his running. But you feel like as he gets stronger, gets a little bit older, we might see him up there on the runs in World Champ Series.
Well, he's only 21, so you would imagine he's only going to get better.
I think he was the youngest man, wasn't he, to win a World Cup last year, when he won that race a year ago. Going to be a good battle for bronze between those 2, but there's still still athletes behind.
Yeah, you'd say maybe haven't definitely got bronze sewn up between them, but it's very likely. Meanwhile, the leader isn't far off. Here's the halfway point of his final lap. That is the battle for bronze. It's an all-Spanish affair. Baxter, Serrazione. You can throw a blanket over them at the moment.
Cantero nearing that last turn. It's always good when you get to that point, you know, it's just that one stretch back then all the way to transition. He'll see McCluskey as well. He'll see the gap he's opened up when he gets around this dead turn.
And he wasn't in that leading bike group, was he, when they had that group of about 10? He was in
No.
the chasing pack, and catching on was massive. And Serrazione has gone past Baxter now into the bronze medal position.
And these two can't afford to ease back and kind of race tactically against each other because the athletes are too close behind
Yeah.
them. But they've got to be thinking at this point and thinking, right, how do I beat the man running next to me?
Yeah, at the moment, looks like one of them's going to get a bronze, one of them's going to leave empty-handed, at least in terms of silverware.
We haven't seen McCluskey, though. We don't know what he's doing. Is he blowing up? Is he still, you know, in between? Is he going back towards bronze?
I got the impression that he was, he's not going to get anywhere near Cantero, but he was still going okay in relation to a cushion ahead of the two Spaniards those two trying to deprive him of the silver medal.
It's good for Cantero now because he's going to turn and get eyes on McCluskey, see where he is.
I think he's quite a way up the road.
Yeah, there.
Yeah, I think it's a almost impossible task.
Yeah, that's a long way for them to catch, isn't it?
So it's going to be, by the look of things, a duel between the two Spaniards for the bronze medal. This man, unless something extraordinary happens, is going to claim a second successive gold here in Valencia.
I'm sure it's not easy, but he's made it look easy today, hasn't he? That incredibly fast, it was almost sprint out of transition. And then from lap one, he's managed to put in a really good distance over McCluskey. It must be over 10 seconds by now.
So now we've got dad and daughter having a race with him. There's not too many sports you can get as close to this as this to your
No.
the top athletes.
And they have a big age group race here as well, so you get to race on the same course as well and compare your times to what the elites did.
McCluskey keeping it going pretty well.
And this is going to mean a lot to him. He had that win at the start of the year, but really hasn't done much since then. So I think this will restore probably a little bit of confidence in his ability. So he said he did have some poor races after that win. Yeah, Cantero's got a huge gap now. He just needs to keep doing the same thing. He's nearly there.
He had a terrific transition. He was at the front almost immediately with McCluskey, and then about a lap or so in, he said goodbye to the Aussie. He just has a look behind him, but there's absolutely no danger because that man's some way back.
Time to high-five a long way out as well. I love the confidence.
Here we go. We saw this last year, didn't we? He loves to interact.
He does. He's quite, because he's always moving that first bit. He's trying to gesture to McCluskey as well. Some athletes kind of switch off and go into robot mode, but he likes to engage. I'm sure he will now, as he's got time for some high fives as well. I think he's going to really enjoy this final blue carpet experience.
Well, he's got it in sight. McCluskey will have momentarily. He's racing alone in second place. We may yet have a sprint finish for the bronze next time we get a look at that battle between Serrazione and Baxter. There was a look behind there from McCluskey, but I don't think there's any issues. Well, what a performance this is. If you thought he was good last year, David Cantero, he's been even better this. In a sprint event, he's won incredibly easily. Made it look very, very simple. And for the second year running, David Cantero wins in Valencia. Time for a bow to the appreciative audience. He takes the tape in just shy of 50 minutes. And it looks like the sprint is on for the bronze as McCluskey comes across the line to get the silver. And it looks like Baxter gets the bronze ahead of Saratsionis. That's a great result for him.
Arnaud Mengel there from Belgium getting that 5th place. Reese Vanassen getting, I think, 7th there. Really fast run from the American. I think he must have come from behind, actually, because he wasn't in that big pack at the front. Matthew Wright coming over the line, Fleury from Switzerland. So Azano got 6th, Vanassen got 7th. Good run from Leon Donnelly from Canada. Janice Ground 9th, and Gabriel Feldham got into the top 10. So close between these athletes in this top 20. They're all finishing within about 30-40 seconds of each other. There's Dar Smith there with that fantastic swim and was really prominent at the front of the bike over those initial couple of laps.
And if he got more help when he was asking for it, who knows what might have happened. Tulsa just finishing in a very respectable position there.
You've a lot of Spanish in that top 20 today.
Hurtle giving us a wave. Well, there's your 1, 2, 3 in podium order, actually. Winning time was just shy of 50 minutes, 49.48. Would have been quicker. I mean, he stopped on the line. Series event.
They're going to have to get the medals done quickly because it's going to be dark soon, isn't it? Get some spotlights on down there. I think we might have a lot of the David Cantero fans hanging around for the podium celebrations.
I think with 2 Spaniards on there, yeah, they're not going to go home. Well, Alaya is down there somewhere, so hopefully she's going to grab a word with the 3 medalists. Not least because I want to hear Sergio Baxter's accent. I'm intrigued by half Yorkshire, half Spanish.
David, 2 in a row, and especially at home, how does that feel?
Yeah, well, I think it couldn't be better. All my people, my family, my friends were here one more time to support me. I feel it, and they give me all the strength I need for the win. And I think it couldn't be better with my home and all the people I want.
I mean, Looks like Valencia is a really special race for you, especially this year after 4th place, 5th place. How does it feel to win again a World Cup?
Yeah, for sure it feels really good. It hasn't been a really good season for me, but I think that victory gives me all the power and all the energy I need for the second part of the season. And I think always Valencia it's treating me good, and I think I couldn't be happier.
Let's talk a little bit about the race, especially the run. You and Callum went for it at the very beginning. Were you trying to just step away?
On the bike, I try to stay in the head part all time I could, and in the T2 I went on second place. And then for the run, I knew that if I put a hard pace from the beginning, I could let them back and then just try to lead back Callum. And I think tactically I did the best I could do, and I'm so happy.
Una en español te hacemos. ¿Cómo sientes después una segunda victoria aquí en Valencia, especialmente jugando en casa? ¿Cómo se siente?
Pues creo que es inimaginable la sensación. O sea, sinceramente, bueno, pues sabía que estaba bien, que podía hacerlo bien, pero ganar es muy difícil. Habían rivales muy buenos, muy duros, especialmente en la carrera a pie, y creo que he hecho todo lo posible por hacer lo mejor con mis cartas. Las he jugado lo mejor que he podido y creo que he demostrado una vez más que puedo estar ahí.
Enhorabuena, muy bien hecho.
Muchas gracias a vosotros.
Well, he's delighted both in English and in Spanish with that performance. Fantastic retention of the title he won here a year ago. And, you know, when he got past, or didn't get past McCluskey, when he dropped McCluskey, there's never really much of a doubt about it.
And you look at me. Yep.
Let's hear from the Australian now. He's down with Elia.
Callum, you said a couple of days ago that this was going to be a run race, and it was a run race. How does that feel?
Yeah, it's really good. David pushed me the whole way, and it was a really good showdown, I think. And yeah, I hope we put on a good show for the crowd.
And how does it feel? You did a podium in the World Cup at the very early season. Then season is long, I guess. But how does it feel to be back on the podium on the World Cup?
Yeah, well, the start of the season in Napier was really good, and I sort of haven't been able to match that performance throughout the year. And to come out in Europe and get another World Cup podium is really good. And I was able to perform under that pressure.
Let's talk a little bit about the run. You said that it was going to be a run race. You went with David from the very beginning. I guess that it was not easy to keep the pace with him, especially the last lap, no?
Yeah, he had a really good transition. So he probably had about maybe 6 or 7 seconds in front of me out of T2, and I had to catch that up, and I did. And I think that's sort of what I felt towards the end. He was able to push a little bit harder on the last lap, and I was sort of spent. So I think that sort of made the difference. But also, he's a really class runner, so it was really hard to stay with him.
Well done today. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Exactly what Helen was saying there from Callum McCluskey about getting back to some kind of form that he showed us early in the year when he had that win in Napier. And now he's got a silver medal towards the end of the year. Still several races to go, though, as we mentioned at the start. So let's hear from Sergio Baxter.
Sergio, this year has not been easy for you, we know that. How does it feel to be back on a podium?
Yeah, it feels great. I think last time on the podium was quite a while ago. It definitely wasn't this year. It just feels great to be back. I know where I belong, but as you said, it's been a hard year. I've just not been able to string more than 5 weeks training consistently because of injuries, and I've just come from a virus, just been like 4 days in bed at home. So just super happy to be back on the podium, and especially on a home soil in Spain.
And let's talk about the run. You were with Serrat the whole way through, up until the last minutes. I guess that you guys were fighting for a bronze medal, knowing that silver was not going to be easy. Were you trying to leave him before the blue carpet?
I tried to leave him on the second lap going out, but yeah, he was very strong to run against. So he held on to my change of pace. And then, like, we both knew one of us was going to go home without a medal, and I just didn't want to be that one. So he really pushed the pace coming back on the last lap, and I thought, oh, there's not long to go, just got to hang on and then just give it all on the blue carpet, and came away with a medal, so super happy.
Well done today. We'll do una en español. De vuelta en el podio después de una temporada que para ti ha sido muy dura, con lesiones, has estado malo últimamente. ¿Cómo se siente?
Se siente, es una sensación espectacular. Como te has dicho, ha sido un año muy duro con lesiones. Vengo de estar en cama 4 días por un virus y el podio es donde me merezco estar, sé dónde puedo llegar y por eso se siente genial estar de vuelta.
Me imagino que encima además correr en casa sabe mejor, con el público, con el apoyo del público, siempre ayuda, ¿no?
Claro, viendo la carrera de las chicas he visto el comentarista y decía que Hayden Wild dice que solamente correr en casa te da un 10% de motivación extra y en eso iba pensando, correr delante de este público espectacular ha sido lo que me ha dado ese plus de motivación para conseguir la medalla.
Bien hecho, enhorabuena.
Muchísimas gracias.
Well, 3 very happy medalists, and in fact, it looks like we're going to get the presentation done pretty soon. But first, just to steer you towards the next event in the World Triathlon Championship Series. It is coming up in Weihai, China. It's the penultimate event of the year, and it's the top level, of course, of our sport. Should be great.
The men's field is phenomenal. We've got Alex Yee back, we've got Hayden Wild back, and when those two are in a field, you generally get fireworks. We've also got the world champion here, Beth Potter from Great Britain.
I think the really interesting one is Gwen Jorgensen.
Tersch hasn't given up, though. She's trying to come again, and Potter has to respond again. What a fantastic battle. Really started the season well.
I think he's going to come out all guns blazing for this one.
This is so impressive. How's the Winter Australia? Bang on 50 minutes. What a run. Trying to dominate Hayden Wild on the run. Can't wait. 27th of September, 8:30 and 11:45 local time. So pretty much back-to-back, the men's and the women's races. So please join us for that. Helen and I will be there. And we'd love to have your company. We're just looking back on some of the action we've watched over the last 50 minutes or so. Really take your eye off it. Was superb in the way that David Cantero has controlled that whole race, really, from the run. But once we had that big pack of men riding around, and it was just a case of who would kind of stand up and produce the best run form, really.
Yeah, and Cantero didn't make that front group on the swim, but we did see he was one of the first athletes at the front of that pack, and straight away he was like, he didn't push the pace on the bike, he waited for that, he's almost like timed it, it's like, well, he kind of predicted it was going to come together, and yeah, he just was able to deliver that fantastic run.
Seen it again here. 49.48 the winning time. It could have been a lot quicker. Really make any difference? And we are getting set for the presentation ceremony. Darkness comes very quickly, doesn't it? It goes from light to dark. It seems the blink of an eye here.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the medal ceremony of the 2024 World Triathlon Cup Valencia. Señoras y señores, bienvenidos a la ceremonia de entrega de medallas de la Copa del Mundo de Triathlon Valencia 2024. Presenting medals today will be, hace la entrega de las medallas, la señora Marisol Casado, presidenta de World Triathlon. Presenting flowers will be, hace entrega de las flores, el señor Luis Cervera, director general de deportes de la Comunidad Valenciana. In third place, and the winner of the bronze medal, representing Spain. En tercera posición y ganador de la medalla de bronce, representando a España, Sergio Dexter.
Well, he said in his interview he couldn't remember when his last medal was. It was summer of last year when he got a silver in Tizory-Varos. Has got a gold as well. He won Pontevedra a couple of years ago, and now he's got a bronze medal for the collection.
In second place, and the winner of the silver medal, representing Australia, segundo clasificado y ganador de la medalla de plata representando a Australia, Callum McCloskey.
Who adds a silver to the gold he won at the first World Cup this year in Napier in New Zealand. That was his first World Cup medal, and this is his second.
And in first place, and the winner of the gold medal at the 2024 World Triathlon Cup Valencia, representing Spain, en primera posición y ganador de la medalla de oro en la Copa del Mundo de Triatlón Valencia 2024, representando a España, David Cantero.
Defended the title that he won a year ago. That was an Olympic distance. This was a sprint. Only his fourth race of the year. He'll have his sights set on some more medals before 2024's out, because after he won this event last year, he took the silver in Tangiers. And once he left Callum McCluskey behind, there was never really any issue, no doubt. He was going to strike gold here. Stand by then for the Spanish national anthem.
Please rise for the playing of the national anthem of Spain.
Might be 12 months ago or away, but you wouldn't bet on them not turning up next year and winning again. He's only 21.
He's got plenty of years left to win the race.
So second successive gold for Cantero. McCluskey with the silver and Sergio Baxter with the bronze. That is about all we have for you from Valencia on the east coast of Spain, but just a final reminder that we'll be concentrating on the World Triathlon Championship Series in just under 2 weeks' time, September the 27th. And we have a race in Weihai, or 2 races in Weihai, with some of the biggest names in the sport. Till then, from myself, Trevor Harris, for Helen Jenkins, and our whole production cast and crew in Valencia and beyond, thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Este reconocimiento por la organización de esta Copa del Mundo de Triatlón Valencia 2024. Fuerte aplauso, por favor, para Marisol Casado y Luis Cervera.